I, Bhumi Parikh, on behalf of Vidush Somani Institute of Technology and Research, KSV University, extend a warm welcome to all of you on account of the online technical lecture series Tech Ignite 2021 organized by VSITI. So, commencing with the second lecture, I feel highly privileged to briefly introduce our expert, Dr. Bhadresh Pandya sir. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, you have 20 years of work experience in India, UAE, USA. Sir, you have been awarded the gold medal in MSc with mathematics as a specialization subject. Sir, you have also been awarded gold medal in Master of Computer Applications. Sir, you are a professor and head at MSc IT department at KSV since the last 12 years. Sir, you have held key IT positions in various industries like chemicals, dairy, FMCG manufacturing, financial services, and IT. Sir, you have expertise in Oracle database performance tuning, SAP BAN, Navis Express, data warehousing, Informatica Power Center, data mining, data analytics, and blockchain. We welcome you again, sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for your welcome and nice introduction.
Thank you, sir.
And it's my privilege to be part of this workshop or a series of lectures. I'm really happy
Thank you, sir.
about it. And thank you, the entire team, for organizing this. And I would like to welcome all the students who are joining this lecture series. Thank you all for taking interest, and I would try to share something with you that I hope will be very useful to you in taking up your career further. So, shall I start the session now?
Yes, sir. 1 minute, sir. Sir, the students will post the questions in the chat box. As
Okay.
they are they are muted because
Okay.
so they will write their questions in the chat box.
Okay. Okay. So I'll have
Okay,
a
sir.
look at
Thank
it.
you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So, hello, students. Uh, the topic I'm going to talk about is data science using R. So my purpose of taking this topic was to uh, introduce certain functionality and feature of R which are really very useful, and you can learn those in very less time, and you also come to know about what is data science, what is machine learning, and how that is used. So my purpose was to have you demonstrate something which will help you understand what is the power of R. So I took up this topic, and let me get started. I'll share my screen. So is it visible?
Yes, sir. The screen is visible.
Okay. Okay. Okay, fine. So data science using R. Now, first of all, we need to know what is data science. I believe you have been introduced to this topic by one of the experts, Ganatra sir, I think. We must have talked about machine learning and data science. And for R also, Sandeep Moda sir must have taught you some programming on that. So you have some awareness about it. Okay. So data science uses mathematical and statistical models, basically. So a lot of calculations are required. Mainly, this is used for analysis and coming to a certain conclusion. So definitely, wherever you need to do any analysis, you need mathematics and statistics knowledge, right? So a lot of mathematical and statistical models are used here. It is a multidisciplinary field. It involves statistics, programming, domain knowledge, and many more things. Data science uses smart machine learning algorithms, which make smart and informed decisions about data. You must have learned about few machine learning algorithms. You might be knowing a bit about it definitely. So it uses many machine learning algorithms when you take up any data science project. Now, what does data science do? Data science, you can say it's nothing but making sense out of the data. It is a science of making sense out of the data. As you know, in today's scenario, we have been generating data like anything, right? It's a flood of data. Every day we are generating lot of data. Every organization is generating lot of data. So we need to analyze the data and use this data so that we can get some information, some knowledge which is useful to the society or the organization for the improvement, right? So what is data then? If I give you an Excel sheet having 10 columns, and each column has got, like, out of 10 columns, some of the columns has some numerical data, some of one or two columns have some codes in that, one column has some descriptive data, but there is no heading of the column, right? Then what can you say about the data? So this kind of data becomes, like, you can't do anything with the data, right? Because you don't know what is there in the data. But if this sheet has got column headers, you know, okay, this column has got, say, age or income of the person, right? Or what is the bank balance, or what is the transaction amount. So you need to know the data well, what you are getting, right? You need to understand the data. Now, when you take up any project, if you want to do something, you need to identify from where you will get the data. Suppose you want to work on some agricultural project, then from where you will get some reliable data for that field. If you want to do some weather analysis, you need to find out from where you will get the data, right? Then you can work on it. So this is also very important, from where you will get the data, relevant data. And once you get the data, we need to explore it. See, when you get data, there will be a lot of information in the data. Lot of fields may be there. So you need to understand each and every field, what it means, whether it is useful or not for the project what you are taking. right? So you need to explore the data, understand the data. Science, as we all know, science is something from which if you derive any result, you believe in that. You always say that, okay, it is scientifically done or scientifically proved. That gives you confidence, right? But here what we are trying to do is we are trying to learn from the data. We know something, some hidden thing is there in the data which will help us to gain some knowledge, and that knowledge can be used for the benefit of the society or organization or wherever we are working, right? So how to get that? So we can definitely learn from the data, and once we have done analysis, we have to test it. How do we know that what when we are right or wrong, right? You have to test it out also. So if you come to any conclusion, you have to check the result. So nowadays we know like vaccination is going on. What is the impact of vaccination, right? Collect the data. You collect data of say 5,000 people who have taken vaccine. What is their status now? Did they get again infected? And how many got infected, how many got cured, or what happened, right? Earlier, whatever you have done, you can verify it by testing it. So that is also required. And in the science, we do that. We have that process so that we rely on it, right? So we are combining data and science to get certain knowledge which is reliable. Now, to come to that, it's a long process. To get something, it's a very, very long and complex process, right? So, data science can provide us the ability to take data, to be able to understand it, to process it, to extract value from it, to visualize it, and to communicate it, right? So, it gives us ability to understand, then process the data, and extract the value out of it, and whatever results are produced we should be able to visualize it, and then that result we should be able to communicate with the stakeholders properly so that proper action can be taken on that, right? So data science, as we discussed, it involves many fields. You need to have domain knowledge also, right? If you are working on agriculture project, you need to have knowledge of agriculture. If you are working on finance, you need to have knowledge of that. If you are working on insurance or any other sector, you need to have that domain knowledge. Plus mathematics, mathematical knowledge, statistics. So lot of things are required, many things are combined here, but mainly like uh, where we are getting the knowledge, the process involves machine learning also, right? And I believe you might have gone through certain machine learning algorithms and methods, and I'm not going to go in lot of theoretical part of that. uh, One of the things you must have heard about is regression, then classification, clustering, association rules, mining. Regression, where we try to do some prediction, right? Based on the data, you may have certain independent variables. Using that, you try to predict one dependent variable, the value of the dependent variable. Then there is a classification methods, techniques, you can say, where based on the given data sets, given data, along with the classes and their labels, you use that data to come out with a process so that if you get new observation, new data, you can classify that. Suppose you have got data of thousands students. You come and have them classified in say A, B, C, D group. Okay, so you already know a process. You design a process using the training set of data, right? The data available with labels is called training set of data. So you use that data, derive a method. So how that data is classified, why a student belongs to group A, why a student belongs to group B or C or D. Okay, so you will have that formula or process ready. Now that process you will test it also. If it is tested, you have your classification mechanism ready, and then whenever a new student comes, you put that student's data through that method, and it tells you now these students belong to group B or C or D, right? So that is about classification. It is a supervised learning, right? Clustering, where you get huge amount of data and you don't know how many groups are there within the data, and you want to form the groups. And then association rules learning, where we try to associate certain say items if two things are related or not. So like in the if we take example of retail sales, if a store is there, they are selling say hundreds of items, and if you want to identify whenever say item A is sold, what are the chances of item B is also sold along with that. So that is what we try to learn, identify the association between two items or group of items there. So let me show certain methods in R, certain techniques in R regarding this. So let me just take simple linear regression. So simple linear regression involves just two variables. Out of these two variables, one is independent and second one is dependent. So using the value of independent variable, we want to predict value of dependent variable. So for example, if you want to predict person's height from his weight, if you have got weights of the people in pounds, you want to predict height of the person in inches, right? So like if you take that, so like we have got some observations. I believe this graph is visible.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, fine, thank you. So here we have got very few observations, about 10, 12, where x-axis is weight is put, that is in pound, and on y-axis we have got height in inches, right? And each observation shows its value, that this weight is there 100 pound and height is about say 61 inch. Another observation is about say like weight is about 115 pounds, height is 62 inches, likewise. So we have got few observations plotted here. Now this is, you can say, this is a training set of data. Here you know weight of the person and height also, both of these you know, and we assume that there is a linear relationship between these two variables. Now what we are trying to do in the simple linear regression is we want to find out a line such that the these observations are very near to that line or on the line, all the observations. That there should be a minimum deviation from the line, right? If there is a deviation, it is called error. Let me show you another screen. So like this is a line and these are observations. Okay. And the difference between the y-axis as per the whatever value of x we take, and there is a difference where the line passes and actual observations value of y. So this is called error, right? So we want to come up with equation of a line such that the sum of these errors is minimum. So that is will be our goal in finding simple linear regression, that we need to find a line where we have minimum error, right? So how that is done in R, I'll demonstrate that, and then we'll again come back to these slides and go to the next topic. Let me demonstrate these things in R. I have got certain instructions already written here, okay, and I'll execute those and explain along with that. So first of all, I will import some data. If you have data in CSV format, you can import that in R. And I'm not going to explain commands of R, but my focus will be on demonstrating the features. I'm importing one data set. So I've got a data set of 30 observations. There, it has got two columns. First column is having years of experience and another column is having salary. So what is our purpose here is to predict salary based on years of experience. Suppose a person who is working in HR, right? He or she needs to negotiate salary with the person selected. Then how much he can offer to the person selected, right? So that is the thing you want to identify, you want to predict. That person has got 7 years of experience. How much salary one should offer? Because when you offer the salary based on that, that person is going to take decision, right? Whether if he gets better salary than what he is getting, then he would join. Otherwise, he may not select the job, right? So somehow this company has got certain information of uh, a relevant company. Okay, and these are the observations here. And using this actual data, we want to come out with equation of a line such that we can use for the prediction. So what we can do in R is I'm just executing certain commands. I'm not explaining that right now. First, whatever method we use, right? Whatever solution we get, we need to test it also. So R gives a facility. This is actual data, and we need to test with actual data only, right? So what we'll do is we'll split this actual data into two parts. One for coming out, using it as a training set of data to come out with the solution, and other set of data we'll use for testing. So in R there is a package. See, R has got about 5,000 or more than that packages for different work, doing different work. So I'll split this data into two parts. I'll take 2/3 of the data for training. So there is a split command. So it has split 30 records with true and false labels. Okay. So I've split the data into 2 by 3. So and so 66% of data is true, which I'll use for training. So I'll label this data as training set. So training data, as I said, where the data is having label true. So I'm putting it here. If you see here, training set has got 20 observations. So if I click here, I can see it here. 20 records are there. And if you see record numbers also are there. First record is there, third is there, sixth is there. Okay. So we have got training set of data with 20 observations. Remaining data with false label, I'll put that as a test set. So that also I can view here by clicking here. So 10 records are there, observations are there. Okay. So I've got two sets of data now. One is training set of data and another is test set of data. Now what I will do, I'll use training set of data, these 20 observations, and I'll fit a line for these observations. Best fit line equation, I'll find it out. Okay. So R has got a lot of packages and functions. So one of that is LM, that is linear model. Okay. So I'll use LM model to come out with the equation of the line. And there I have to specify salary is dependent variable and years of experience is independent variable. And then this linear model is to be constructed using data, which is training set of data. Right? So I'll execute this and I'll put that data as a regressor. So regressor LM model is done. So got regressor. See, if I just plot this data, plot training underscore set. If I just plot the data, it is like this, right? You can see it on the right side below. I can zoom that also. This is training set of data, right? All observations, which are used for coming out with the equation of a line. Now, regressor I have executed. I want to use that regressor for predicting the test set of data, and I can use y predict. Predict function is also there. So we can use that. So I will, if you see here values, it has predicted salary for these 10 observations. So first observation 37,767. Second observation it is 44,322. That we can also list it here. If I just write ypred here, if you see on the left side bottom, it shows second observation, the data for the second observation prediction is 37,766. And if I see the actual observations here, test set data, so where second observation has got 1.3 years of experience and actual salary is 46,000. Here it shows predicted salary is 37,000. So there is a difference. Fourth observation, here the years of experience is 2.0 and actual salary is 43,525, whereas predicted salary is 44,322. So this is very near, right? So likewise, we can compare what the predictor is giving and what is our test data has got actual salary. And if you find lot of deviation, then it may not be usable, right? Then we need to come up with something else. But here you will find that many observations are very near to the predictions. Now this we have tried to look into figure. Now let us see, let us plot it. Let's plot it. So in R, we have got a package called ggplot2, right? So that we need to install. If it is not there, we need to install it. Now I'll plot these things. I'll not go into much syntax explanation and all, but here geom point function is there, which will put the observations. So I would like to plot these observations, right? So training set of data, I will use years of experience in the x-axis and salary of training set of data as y-axis. So it will plot the points. Then geom line we can use along with the regressor. Regressor has got the predictors data. So I'll use that. And then these are like for displaying titles and etc. So let me execute this. So if you see on the right side bottom, we have got all observations plotted in red color and line is there in blue color. So, and this is for the training set of data. So using these observations only, we came out with the equation of the line, which is best fit for these observations. So many observations are very near to line, you will find. Here it's almost touching the line, here also it is touching the line, here also. So it is very near. Many observations are very near to the line. And this is best fitted line, right? So it has got minimum error. But for training set of data, it is assumed to be near to the line because same we have used to come out with the equation of the line. Now, let us see how it does with the test set of data. This we can zoom and see also on bigger screen, right? So this is how it looks. Now let us see how the line does for the test set of data. Let's plot that. Now here what I am doing, if you see the geom points, will be using test set of data, test set years of experience and test set salary. So these points will be plotted based on test set of data, and again regressor will use what we have used for the equation of line. So same line will be there, but observations will be from the test set of data. If you see here, there are observations from test set, and this is the equation of line. So here also you will find many of the observations are very near to the line. Yeah, some observations have some error, but it is bound to be there. All points cannot be there on the line or near to the line. But this seems to be much acceptable predictor, right? So this is how we can use simple linear regression in R. It's really easy. You import the data and use regressor, LM model, right? So in R, it becomes very easy to do such work. Okay, so let's again move on to our next topic in this. I'll go to the PPT. And there is a polynomial regressor also in R. Then let's talk about clustering. So what is clustering? It is the process of grouping set of physical or abstract objects into classes, right? We want to group objects in such a way that within the group all objects are very similar. But if you compare two objects of different group, there should be a dissimilarity. Means basically there should be a distance between two objects. When you take the objects big distance between two objects of different group, but within the group there should be small distance and it should have more similarity. So that is how we want to try and group the data. Now how it can be done? See, there are many algorithms for the clustering. One of the basic method is k-means algorithm. I'm not sure if anyone has discussed that with you or you might have studied that. I'll quickly go through it. K-means algorithm, where k denotes the number of clusters we want to form. If you are a given observation, say 50,000 observations are there, but when you want to use k-means clustering algorithm, you need to decide means how many clusters you want to form, how many groups you want to form. You may decide 4 or 5 like that. So you decide the number of clusters you want to form. Then you need to come up with a centroid. Where will be the center of these 4 groups or 5 groups you want to create, 5 clusters you want to create. So you may have to randomly choose that centroids. Then what we do is align each point to the closest centroid. So you take the distance of each point from all 5 centroids, say, and see which centroid is near to that. So you put that point in a cluster having that centroid, right? Likewise, you allocate all the points to different cluster. Then again, what we do is we recalculate the centroid using the average distance from all the observations, all the points. So you have new centroid which might have moved from the original place. And for new centroids, you again reallocate the points to different centroid. And this process we do iteratively till there is no change, and then we stop. So graphically, if you want to see, so these are the observations points. We want to say form 2 clusters. Then first thing is we need to come out with 2 random centroids. So you put 2 centroids, one here and one here. Now what we have to do is allocate this point to the centroid which is nearest to it. Like if you consider, say, this point, it is near to blue, then red, right? So this point will go initially with this centroid, right? Likewise, you allocate each point to the nearest centroid. So if you do it, it will be like this. These blue color points are allocated to blue centroid here, and red are allocated to red one, right? Then what we do is, now we take these points and calculate new centroid, center of this, as an average of these all, right? So we calculate new centroid for both the clusters. So the centroid will move a little, right? For new centroid, now you have to do the reallocation, assignment of the points. So we do that. So you will observe that some of the points which were in blue color, now they are in red, and same thing from red to blue. There are few points transferred. Again, we do the calculate the centroid. So again, it will move. So likewise, this process is repeated. And then when we stop, if there is no change, all the points remain in the same cluster, then we stop it. Right? So this is what is called k-means clustering. So finally, when we stop, we get two clusters, right? So if you see, the points within the cluster are very near to each other, and if you take points outside of different clusters, they have bigger distance, right? So they must have similarity within the cluster and significant dissimilarity outside the cluster, right? Now, same thing we can use in R for clustering. So let's go to R and take the data. So I've got, say, data from the mall, customers data. I'll explain what it is. I'm importing that data. Set. And now, if you see, where is the it is not taking. Just a moment, there looks like some issue there. Set. Seems to be some problem. I will just. Okay. Yes, it has got imported. Okay, 200 entries are there. Let me import this. So this data has got imported. Has got 200 entries. So I've got details like customer ID. See, these customers are members, so you know all the details about the customers of that mall. And you have got customer ID, gender, age, annual income and spending score. How spending score is calculated by the team, uh, and each customer is assigned a score between 1 and 100, right? So, and you have got annual income. So basically what we'll be doing is we will use annual income and spending score. I want to group the customers so that I can target the customers in such a way that my sale increases, and I should know which customer buys, what is the pattern, how they are similar, so that I can target customers in certain groups. Okay, so that is the purpose. So I'm going to use only column 4 and 5. So this data set has got 5 columns, but for me it is fourth and fifth columns are useful, so I will take only that for further consideration. So I'll say x is equal to data set fourth and fifth column. I'll do that. Okay, and if I view x here, now how I can do this? Like if I plot this x, oh, data set not found. Oh, there are errors. Okay, there was some issue. It was not taking that. Now I'll execute x. Okay. Now if you see x here, you have got only annual income and spending scores. If I plot these points, so they look like this. Okay. So these are all data. On x-axis we have got annual income, and y we have got spending scores. Now I want to group them in such a way that we can get benefit for the business. So how to group them? Now for K-means algorithm, R has got package related to that. It is called K-means. So let me just create 3 group. K-means package name is K-means. I am using dataset X. I am forming 3 clusters. How many clusters I want to form? So I have to give that number here. So I am forming these 3 clusters. Let me go run this. So it has got executed. Okay. CLA3. Now how I can plot this? So I can use plot command to plot it. I plot this. I zoom this. If you see this now, there are certain points put in red color, certain points put in green color, and certain on in black. So 3 clusters are formed here, right? So I can visualize it like this. I can, same way I can create 4 clusters also. And here what we have done, I can just plot centroid also with this. Centroid I am plotting. So now if you see, we have got centroid of each cluster, which is shown differently, right? Now I will create, say I can go for 4 clusters. And let's zoom this and plotted it. So now we have got 4 clusters. Here if you see on the left side bottom corner, green color is there, points with green color. Here blue color points are there, black color points and red color. So 4 clusters are created. Now which is good cluster? Out of these, say 3, 4, 5, 6, I can keep on creating different clusters, right? So which is a better cluster? Or the best one which gives me more similarity within the group, right? And significant difference outside the group. What is the number of clusters I should go for? So that is a problem, right? Now how to solve this problem? We can use a method for that. That is called elbow method. I don't know, someone might have discussed that with you. Elbow method. So what do we do here is we take distance. Say this is one cluster, this is centroid. I'll take distance from centroid for each of the point within the cluster. Okay. And for all points we do that, and then we take sum of the distance, sum of the squares of the distance, right? So for whichever clusters, number of clusters, that sum of squares is minimum, that is the best cluster, number of clusters. So for that we have got method function here. Okay, I'll do that here. K means within sum of squares is there, and we'll plot. I'll now use little bit programming here. I'll use for loop to do it for 10 times with different values of I, and then plot it. And I'm using seed to have random number generation. This is the elbow plotted. What it tells us is when I create one cluster, within sum of square is this at this number. If I create 2 clusters, it is here. 3 clusters, it is here. 4, it is here. 5 is here. 6 is here. So if you see this line, it's a graph from 5th point onwards, it is almost becoming flat, right? So that means if I go for 5 clusters, it is better, because even if I go for 6 cluster, within sum of square will be little less only, and number of clusters will increase. So likewise, if I go for like creating more and more clusters, definitely within sum of square will reduce, right? Because many clusters are there, so point will come near to the cluster centroid. If I create 200 clusters, I have got 200 points. So each of the point will become a centroid, and there some within sum of square will be 0. But that doesn't give any benefit to us what we want to do. So this is the best number I should go for, and this is called elbow, where it becomes straight, right? Almost flat. So 5 is the number. So let me create cluster with 5 clusters. So now I'll create 5 clusters and I'll plot it little bit different. So it has created 5 clusters. And I will plot it. I am using plus plot function graph. So if you see here, 5 clusters are put here, right? And for these observations, you need to do the analysis and you need to label them also. How they are similar, how they are different, what does it mean? Here you need a person who has got domain knowledge and he should do the analysis. Now what these clusters represent? X-axis is on annual income and y-axis gives us spending scores, right? So if you take this cluster on the right side bottom, they have got high income, right? But they are spending score is less. Whereas if you consider this right side top, these people have high income and they have got high spending core, right? Then we have got third cluster, which is in between these two on the left side at the center. You can say they have got average income, annual income, and they are also spending average. On the left side, if you see at bottom, you have got people who have got low income and their spending score is also low. And on the left side top, if you take this cluster, that means these customers have low income but they are spending high, their spending score is higher. So depending on this, you may target certain customers, right? So you may target on this, on the right top people, customers who have got high income and their spending score is also very high, right? You may want to make these customers move to these clusters, right? You may take certain actions based on that so that high income customers become high spenders also. Your target may be like that. These on the left side top customers are, you can say, they are careless customers. They have got low income but they are spending more. So this is how you can do the analysis. You can label them differently as per your business terminology. So this is what we can do in R regarding clustering. There are many clustering algorithms and R has got packages to use that and do the clustering, and then you can visualize also, right? So that was regarding the clustering. Okay. So that's what I believe. There is no question raised. Oh, oh. Okay. Okay. So let's move further. Let's talk about association rules learning. That is mainly we can relate it to our retail thing, where if one person buys one item, what are the chances that he is going to buy another item with that? What is the association of items or group of items? That is what we try to find out using this association. There are certain terms we need to understand for this. One is called minimum support threshold. Minimum support threshold is like, see, when from the business point of view, when you want to act on certain information, see, if you have a retail shop and you are getting say 1,000 transactions in a day, 1,000 sales are made, okay, then how many number of transactions should be there, so significantly there, so that you take certain actions and it benefits your business, right? So out of 1,000 transactions, if you get say 20 transactions where item B is sold along with A, that maybe you may find it is useful. But if you find only 2-3 transactions where item B is sold with A, then it may not be that much effective for your business to take any action for your business. So you need to decide on minimum support threshold, that how much it should be. So support for how support is defined is total number of transactions you take and the number of transactions for the item. So if A and B are sold together for 50 times out of 1,000 transactions, so you have say 50 divided by 1,000, that is the support for A and B together, right? So if item A is sold 100 times out of 1,000, the support for item A is 100 by 1,000, right? That is 10% support, right? So you can calculate support like this. You also need to understand confidence. So confidence is like, if I want to establish association between A and B, I want to see that how many times B is sold along with A. Okay, what is the confidence? So if you say if item A is sold 10 times a day and item B is also taken by the customer who has bought item A 4 times, then it is your confidence is a 40%, right? 4 by 10. 4 times A and B are sold together out of 10 times A is sold. So that your confidence is 40%. So you have to decide what should be the minimum support and what should be the minimum confidence for you to take some action in your business if you find such association. Now, these things also can be done in R. Let me just execute relevant commands here. And the algorithm normally used with that is a priori algorithm, it is called. I am again not going into the details of that. I'll have to put library A rules for that, a priori rules related library. Then I am going to import some data related to market basket optimization. So I've got 7,500 records of market basket. This is the data of transactions, sales transactions, and what one transaction represents is what are the items bought in one transaction. So that this you can say it is your cart, right? So first transaction had shrimp, almonds, avocado, vegetable mix, green grapes, whole wheat flour, etc. Second transaction had burgers, meatballs, eggs. Third transaction chutney. Fourth transaction has turkey and avocado. Likewise, you have got 7,501 transactions here. Now, for doing analysis of this, we cannot just use this data. It has got text only. So I have to convert this data where we can do certain analysis. So this data needs to be converted into a sparse matrix, right? Where what we can do, we'll put these items as a column, right? So there are, for this data, there are about 180 or so items. Okay. So we can put 180 odd columns. And for the transaction, whatever items are purchased will have value 1 and remaining all will have 0, right? So this will be a sparse matrix where value will be there in very few columns, very few columns and row, and most of the part will be 0. That is why it is called sparse matrix. So we'll have to create that, and for doing that, there is a function package and function called transactions, read.transactions. So it will convert this data into sparse matrix. We'll do that. So it has created that sparse matrix. You cannot visualize that. Then if I take summary of the data set, is created summary of the data. And now what I will do, you can, out of this you can see how many top 50 items are there. I can use item frequency plot package for this. So if you see here, mineral waters is having highest frequency here, right? So it has gone in many transactions. Then eggs, then spaghetti and French fries, etc. You find this here. So top 50 items are here. So likewise, you can plot any number of items. I can go and plot say top 100 items. About 100 items. So you know there are few items where they are bought more frequently. Then there are certain items bought in this range, and then lot of items are having less frequency, right? Now I am interested in finding certain association. So for that, a priori algorithm is there, but I need to specify here what kind of support I want, what kind of confidence I need, right? So that accordingly it will give me the rules. So let me just run this, create the rules. So for this, 0 rules are created. Whatever support and confidence I gave, support I gave is 3%, not even 3.3, and confidence I gave was 8.8, 80% confidence. That means I am looking for an association where if item A is sold, 80% of time I want item B to be sold also. So that is very high confidence, right? And it may not happen in large volume of large number of transactions. I need to reduce this. I'll go for say 4 and see what happens. 40% confidence. So here I am getting 281 rules. Means I have got 281 item or group of items which are having support more than 0.3 and then confidence 40% and above, right? Now I can also inspect this list. I can inspect these rules. So let me just say display 10 rules. So I've got a list of items which has got minimum support and confidence. The strong cheese along with that spaghetti is sold having support of required support and confidence 0.48. Lift is this much. To lift should be high. It should be greater than 1, and as high number is there, it is better. Okay. So you need to consider these also for a strong association, better association, right? So these are 10 rules I am able to see. It has created 281 rules, but I would be interested more where lift is high. Okay. So if for that I can sort this inspection rules output, sort these by lift and give me top 10. Okay. So here, if you see the list, you have got mineral water, whole wheat, pasta, along with that olive oil is purchased. Support is this, but lift is 6. So this is very good value. So these are associated items. Okay. And you need to do certain analysis of this data. And once you find this data is good, where it benefits the retail shop is they can arrange these items nearby so that customers can easily take it, and that will increase the sale of other item also, right? There are many ways you may launch promotional schemes combining these items, etc. So this is where R is very useful in doing you can do it so quickly with the data, with visualization and all. So this is about it for the association rules mining. These were the 3 examples where R is useful and what is the power of R we can see, and that's what I wanted to demonstrate. So I'll stop here, and I would like to have your questions if you have. So let me come here. Okay. Well, I stop sharing now, then we can discuss. I think yes. Okay. Any question related to this topic or anything you would like to ask? You are free to ask me related to IT. Any questions, students? Anyone? Okay, so I believe nobody has question. Uh, so do you find, was it useful, the demonstration? Did you get something useful out of it?
Students, please type in the chat box.
Okay, good. But I would like to have some questions from you. Yes, you can use Python also. Yes. Yeah, that's what Python and R are very popular for this. Python is also equally good tool for this. Python, you have to import libraries as per your need. And in R, you will get lot of packages already loaded into the software when you install it. Both are used in the industry. It is as per your liking. You can go for it. And data analytics, let me tell you, data analytics field is booming. Lot of demand is there. Lot of demand. So if someone has got that inclination of analytics, should go for Python and R and make a career there. Thank you for your feedback, but I would welcome your questions if you have. Okay. So shall we end the session, madam? If I am not receiving any
Sir,
question, query.
just 2 minutes. We would like to thank you, sir.
Okay.
So thank you so much, sir, for the fabulous and a great lecture. This lecture had a significant impact on each and every student who participated in this expert lecture, especially the concepts like data, science, problems in machine learning like regression, classification, clustering, association rules learning, minimum support threshold, minimum confidence threshold, a priori algorithm, elbow method were explained very nicely and thoroughly. Also, the concepts like linear model, plotting of test set data, training set data, predicting the test set data, clustering were demonstrated by you, sir, practically with the help of our programming. And thank you so much, sir, once again for inspiring our students. Thank you once again, sir.
So, thank you from to all of you, and thank you the organizing team and everyone. Hiren sir, I would like to thank him for inviting me, and I would like to thank students for their active participation and involvement in this. You are at a very crucial juncture of your career, and right decisions and right line will make your career really good. And I'm always happy to interact with the students, and I would love to do it whenever possible. And I'm wishing all the students all the best for their career, uh, and have a great success. And thank you, madam, and all the coordination team. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
sir. Thank you
Okay.
very much, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So shall I disconnect now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you all. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Students, we will be right back at 2 p.m. Right?